Hi there, Maurizio and all the rest of you good people out there. I hope that you're all safe and sound and that health is with you. I hope I pronounced your name somewhat correctly. If not, I apologize. Regarding your question on the forum on the gyroid cell size grading, thinking a little bit further about it and the options that are available, and I thought that I would run a demo on it. So what we want to create is this cell size graded gyroid and the one to the bottom left there. We want to create something similar. So in order to do that, we have created some geometry to start off with. We got the target, which is the final solid body that is going to be filled with this graded gyroid structure. We have we're going to build it oversized since we're going to scale this down in various directions, and we have the 2 that is going to be represent. So from 2 is going to be representing, like the from is the original that we're going to fill with the structure, and the 2 is the scaled version of that, if you like. So let's start, and we're going to do from, and that's the one that we're going to fill with the gyroid structure. And since we already have that under implicit modeling, that is what we're going to use. So we're going to fill that with a gyroid structure. We select the solid there, and I think this is 50 by 50 by 50 cube. So we're gonna do a 10 by 10 by 10, and it's gonna fill up with those cells, that size of cell. And we're also going to use 0 thickness just to reduce the calculation time. We could use a larger voxel size here, but it might be tricky when we're gonna do the scaling later on. And also a great way of impacting performance would be to use as large voxel size as possible, obviously. Here we're going to use 0.5, so we say OK, and we let the system run off and create the gyroid cell structure within that solid there. And here we have it. We can also see that it's poking out a bit, and that is because it's actually a sheet body and not a solid body. The solid body would be trimmed to the edges there. I am going to trim that down myself. Sorry about that. I'm going to trim that down myself. So I'm going to choose the gyroid structure. Gyroid structure. Having a little bit of difficulty with my mouse here, apologize for that. And I'm going to trim it with the solid there, and we let the system calculate all those trimmed edges. And that means that I will now have a cube that is perfectly, or my cell size is perfectly fitting with inside a cube 50 by 50 by 50. Okay, so we're gonna see if we can scale this, and since this is now actually a polygon structure, we can use the morph mesh in polygon modeling. Well, we could use that anyway, it depends on what you desire, but for this we will use morph mesh on a faceted structure. So we let the system enter the morph mesh task menu, and we're going to create a cage around this because that is the one that's going to help us scaling this, and I'm going to make it 50 by 50 by 50 so it's exact. I'm also going to, in the segmentation of this. I'm going to divide it into, in the X direction it's going to be one segment, in the Z direction it's going to be one segment, and in the Y segment, since I have 5 blocks kind of, or cells filling up this in each direction, I'm going to use 5 in the Y direction, since the first cell there I'm going to try to leave untouched during my scaling. So we say okay to that. Doing it this way will give me the exact in a 50 by 50 by 50 block kind of, the exact segmentation. But I will simplify for the system a little bit. So I will merge some faces here because I do not need these to be separated. And this is just for computational purposes. You could leave it as is, but for computational purposes it's smoother to have one face of the cage there. And then we have the smaller ones here that is going to be kind of as is. Once that's done, we can now start to, oops, turn it around. We can now start to modify our cells here in order to scale them. And what we'll do is we will do a transform cage. You could do this in various ways. There's a whole bunch of them. But I will get some support from my 2 representation solid that I have created there. And in this case I will simply just take each and every of these corners and put them on the corner on the 2 structure here. And in doing so I ensure that I have the endpoint toggled on, and I grab my let's see here now, it could be a little bit tricky to get, there it is, and we start dragging corner by corner. And when doing this, make sure that you select corner by corner so you don't have 2 corners selected when you drag, because it's going to move both those corners, and you probably don't want that. So, and you can see here it sticks, so we deselect it and we take the next corner and we drag it up to where the endpoint is. There it is. And we let the system calculate. We're gonna drag the last corner as well down to the endpoint there, and we will have something which is scaled accordingly. So we can see that we go from larger cell size to smaller cell size, and that means we have scaled it in several ways. So with that said, we can hide the reference there, we can finish that and exit the task menu there, and we can have a little bit look at our cell sizes here. We can see that we go gradient from larger to smaller in the Z direction, or sorry, in the Y direction. And we do the same actually from all sides here. So if we take a look at the resulting side, we can see that we have smaller cell sizes, and from the other side, obviously larger cell sizes. You can continue pushing and pulling on this either way you like. The end result, what I wanted was the targets. I want that trimmed to that target body there. So I'm simply going to go to trim body. I'm going to trim my gyroid structure, the now variable gyroid structure, and I'm going to trim it to the cube, because that is what I want to fill with my pattern here. And we can see that, well, it's rather small, but we can see that we have a larger size there and a smaller size over here. And so that's probably the way I would go about this. And well, should you like, you can always return to the morph mesh, and you can do it more freely should you like. Now I use the control cage there to do this, but you can also, of course, just push and pull these cages should you like. The way I did it now, maybe that was not the best, because we still want that to be kind of gradient. Well, it is going to be gradient since I got this conical shape here, so I guess that will be fine. Might take a little bit of computation there, since I might actually collide between the cells, looking at the nature of these cells. So let's see where we end up once it has computed this transformation that I just did. Now if I would want to keep this even more gradient and lock the end here a little bit more, I would lock the cage fall off. So I would toggle on the select, and I will select each and every of these edge around there. However, I'm happy with that. We can see that they're even a little bit more, or a little bit smaller size in the front end here than they are in the back end there. We get some artifacts here that is depending on the cage and the size of the cage. That should probably have been a little bit bigger than the actual gyroid structure here. So when I created the cage, I should have maybe made it a little bit bigger than the 50 by 50 by 50. So trim it back to the target body, and we get something like this. So it's a little bit smaller version than the one you have there, but it will represent what you have there. I hope this will get you further in your endeavors, Maurizio, and to all you good people out there, I wish you a good weekend, and I hope that you stay safe and sound, and above all, healthy. And that's all from Fred for now. So over and out from Fred. Take care. Bye for now.